Hey, greetings and blessings. Good afternoon, everyone. It's me, Nisi. I wanted to come to you today to talk to you about a few things. One, I have been studying and reading from the Lost Teachings of Atlantis, the Children of the Law of One. I have been reading that for like the last maybe 10 days or so. And in our Facebook group that we formed, my son and I, and some other like-minded people, we've been reading the book or listening to the audio book in the group. And what really struck me this past weekend or the past couple of days is the chapter 8, and it talks about love. And after reading the chapter and then listening to the audio version again, I wanted to come to you all today to talk to you about what I feel, or my theory, and you guys can, ladies and gentlemen, you can chime in as well. Once you read chapter 8, you understand that what is missing in this world is love. If you follow the videos that I've done, for the last couple of weeks, you will see where I broke up the section. I think it was in chapter 7 or 6, where we talked about the fall and how that happened. And so now fast forward to chapter 8, and I'm looking and I'm thinking and meditating, and I'm praying, and I'm just contemplating on what I read. And I really think that once we fell and we came into this dimension, this realm, we have lost our oneness, or our universal consciousness with the creator of all. And I don't like to use the title God, but for Christianity's sake, for some people who may be Christians that are watching, or Muslims that are watching, Allah or God, there is none other. There is only one entity or infinite being. And I think that all the different factions around the world all worship the same being or the same entity, but we do it in different ways, obviously. When you read the Lost Teachings of Atlantis, you will understand, and you will come to the understanding and the belief that when this gentleman, John Peniel, who is no longer with us, wrote this book, it makes perfect sense to me that all these religions stemmed from Atlantis. And once Atlantis fell, obviously, those beings got in their ships or spaceships, and they traveled all around the world, and they set up roots. And there's where you have the different divisions or the different interpretations. And over a period of time, of course, man has updated, changed the text. And because this world is not what we think it is, it has been influenced by the dark brotherhood, or the negative entities, or the principalities that scriptures talk about, non-human entities that are running things behind the scene in the upper echelon, above the president, above the governments, above the military industrial complex. You have a small set of group of beings that have manipulated the text. So it has made it difficult for the one who is seeking the path. You have to really understand, and you have to have an open viewpoint to see that you really need to study more than one text to form the opinion and to understand what has transpired. And I feel that once I read this chapter, it put it in perspective with me. So that's why I wanted to come and talk to you, ladies and gentlemen, tonight or this afternoon, because I feel that because we have separate consciousness, as the book talks about, because we are split off from the creator, and we are not in a universal consciousness with everyone around us on this planet, as well as the creator, we are looking at it in terms of our separate selves. And so everything is done selfishly. Everyone in this planet, in this planet, 7.5 billion people, we're all selfish. And you can't tell me that we're not. There are very few who have become enlightened and who have taken the steps to shed the ego and to shed the self, and to understand that when Yeshua, aka Jesus Christ, aka Thoth, aka Hermes, Ninkazita, he's been reincarnated several different times all around the world in different periods. When you understand that these ascended beings, or this ascended being as well as Buddha, as Krishna, as Lao Tzu, and Muhammad, when these ascended beings came here from another realm or higher dimensions, they took on the flesh of a man and they tried to teach us the path, the way, different interpretations around the world. And so we shouldn't be divided with religion. We should not be divided by government. We shouldn't be divided because of our skin, because of our gender, because of our race, religion, wealth, education, any of that. Because really and truly, when you start to study the text and you read this book, you understand that the problem is we're selfish, we're separated, we're cut off from the universal consciousness. We have a perspective of only looking at inclusively of our point of view, when really and truly there is the higher self point of view, where you see yours, mine, and the actual truth. There's always three sides to a story, and we're not looking at it from our higher selves. And I think that for me, going into a building and worshiping what I thought was God, the creator of all, and tithing and singing songs and being baptized, I misunderstood what everything was. And I truly believe, and I know this is a touchy subject for some of you, but if you are seeking a spiritual path, you will understand what I'm saying. I believe in the ascended beings that were here because I understand what they were trying to tell us. I am not sectioned off to a specific worship group, entity. I am not labeled as a Christian. I'm not labeled as a Muslim. I'm not labeled as a Buddhist. I'm not labeled as non-denominational. I am a spiritual being who understands that I am not my body. I am consciousness aware, a conscious awareness, having an experience in this body right now. That when my energy is cut off from the infinite being, I will reincarnate into another being until I have worked out my karma, till I have worked out my soul salvation, until I have learned what I'm supposed to learn to go to the next realm, to higher consciousness. If I can do it now and become enlightened at my age at 50, because it's taken me a long time to get to this part to where I understand who I am and what I am, then all the better. Because I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, if and when I do become enlightened in this lifetime, I will come back. I will choose to come back, and I will choose to come back and teach others who are listening, who may be listening, and who may just be at the brink or teetering at the edge, looking for a path. In the book, it talks about, and I will read a section of this, it talks quite extensively about our selfish selves. John Peniel was in a monastery. He wrote the book in a way to where he was having a conversation with you, explaining how he came to the point of his life and how he became enlightened in his path. So, I will read this section with you. And it says, Chapter 8, Love. During my first week at the monastery, I attended a course taught by the elder monk, Claire, in which I learned about the important fundamentals of the children's teaching. They were beautifully basic and, as she put it, simple. The teachings of the children of the law one are very simple, and here are the two basic aspects to them, which are referred to as the foundation and an essence. The foundation of the teachings is basically this: all beings, all things are one. And suffering is the result of humans forgetting that and now acting as one. Thus, all the problems on the earth would cease with the achievement of universal consciousness. So breaking the illusion of separation and returning to consciousness awareness of oneness should be our goal if we want to exist in a positive and harmonious world. And the teachings stress personal experience of oneness with the universe through any meditation or spiritual attunement method that works for you, not taking them on faith or intellectualizing it from a book or lecture. It is by action. And then he goes on to state, there's a poem here that I won't read. And he talks about in this chapter, the real world qualities of unselfish love. And I felt like when he was talking to the monk was explaining in his own words to Peniel so that he could understand. And the conversation says, unselfish love is the most important way of being that there is. And he says, why? Said the novice. With the exception of people who are hardened in darkness, virtually anyone can agree that kindness, compassion, caring, giving, creation are good things. Thus, these things are far from significant than any belief, any teaching, any wisdom, any knowledge. Even more important than the ancient texts and the children's teaching, the person said. Far more important. If you don't understand that, you don't even really understand the teachings, because that's what they are all about. Those qualities are virtues that are the result of unselfish love and oneness with God. And he says, because true spiritual growth moves you away from the world of separateness and selfishness and towards universal consciousness and oneness. Such a shift in consciousness can only result in caring of all, for you realize that all beings are you and all universal spirit. For instance, you may see people who profess to be holy or cosmic, who meditate or pray, or people who have great metaphysical knowledge or developed abilities and so-called strengths through various programs or doctrines. Whatever they are getting out of it, if it is not making them more caring and compassionate, it's not spiritual growth. Compassion is the greatest of all these virtues that are a part of unselfish love. Compassion means feeling for others, caring about others. A person without compassion is truly empty and cold. There is such a thing as imbalanced compassion, however. If compassion clouds the mind and alone dictates your actions, you can make many mistakes and end up harming yourself and the ones you care about. But this is a problem all too few people have. It is better to have too much compassion than not enough. But like all emotions, it should not overwhelm you and take control of you. Emotions should be feelers, sensors that we are open to, fully aware of, and get information from, but that we are significantly transcendent of, so they do not control us. So then he asks, Elder Peniel, is unselfish love the same as unconditional love? Very good question. I guess you could say unselfish love is a type of unconditional love. But if you interpret the words unconditional love literally, it means giving to or being supportive of someone regardless of their actions, no matter what. If we use that as a definition of unconditional love, then what we can call unselfish love is different in an important way. Unselfish love does not mean giving the loved one anything they want or supporting any and all actions. Unconditional love like that could be harmful to one you love. Unselfishly loving someone does not mean that you will always, that does mean that you will always care for them, always still care about what is best for them, regardless of what the loved one may do or choose. But there can be conditions set or interactions or support. What conditions should be set? It's not a matter of a fixed rule. Everyone is different. Everyone has different needs. There are some things that are the same, but each individual does have different things that should be allowed or not allowed. So how do you know where to draw the line and what to give or not to give? Loving someone unselfishly automatically makes you give to the loved one what their whole being needs. But it does not but it does not just feed their wants and desires. In fact, unselfish love may actually require denying a loved one's desire. But whatever is required for the person, whether giving and or denying, both are done regardless of the consequences on you. Even if it means the person will hate you or fight you, you must do what is best for them. For example, considering the raising of children, let's look at the application of unselfish love versus unconditional love and normal selfish love in that scenario. There are times when you should not give a child what it wants because it is not in their best interest. They may want something that could harm themselves or harm someone or something else. But when unselfish love is not present, a child is likely to be given in to when they persist or throw an ego tantrum. But if you give in, even if there is no physical harm and results, it may make them what is commonly called spoiled. The term spoiled is merely an euphemism for a person's selfishness being so consistent in giving into and well-fed that the self grows in more power and wants more and expects more. In the case of children, they become what people call little monsters. And in the case of adults, they become what's called selfish jerks or, excuse my language, bitches. Child or adult, a person whose selfishness is overindulged becomes quite difficult to deal with, and they lack civility and love for others, and you don't want to be the one who feeds such a thing. Now, do you? And so he continues the conversation. He says, no, that was a rhetorical question again, Yusuf. Does anyone else want to ask anything? And then another person steps forward. Maya, I feel you have a question. And then she says, yes. Okay, I understand what you want to know. You've seen people who are often mean to their children. Sometimes they get very abusive, but that isn't what we mean by not giving in to them. Quite the opposite. You see, there is a common flip side to the coin of indulging someone's self. Since it is being done because the person giving in is acting selfish, the other aspects of the selfishness also come out. Sometimes rather than giving in to a child, the same parent who is not unselfish loving will instead treat the child with anger or even violence, which also further creates bad programming, bad behavior, and creates a little monster. But why do they give in sometimes and not others? Various selfish traits, laziness, not loving enough to deal with negativity, etc. How many times have you seen a parent tell a child not to do something and the child ignores them? The child ignores them because they know they can get away with it. The parent says no again. Still, no results. Eventually, the parent gets angry and either yells or strikes the child. What does that teach the child? Two things. One, it may be worth the gamble to see how far I can get away with something because they know the parent doesn't really mean what they say or back up their threats very often. Or two, when the parent finally loses it, all the child knows is that they are being attacked, hated, and the bigger and stronger is better and makes them right. All very bad lessons. On the other hand, an unselfish, lovingly parent will give loving lessons one time and then demonstrate that the absolute regularity, if they are not listened to, a loving discipline will occur. Sure, it takes more work and ironclad consistency, and you must sometimes do things that are unpleasant for both yourself and for the child, such as taking away something the child likes or grounding them or isolating them, like sending them to the room, but always with love and kindness. Only such true loving actions yields good results and yields remarkable results. The child will eventually not test its limits and end up happier and more loving being itself. This applies to relationships also. If you tolerate harmful or unpleasant behavior in a mate or a friend, either because of unconditional love or because your relationship is based on selfish motives, then you have a mess on your hands. And when you finally lose it and get negative and angry, it will create even more of a mess. But if you love unselfishly, you may even be able to help someone overcome their problems by both not tolerating bad behavior and giving loving positive direction at the same time. So I say, after reading this chapter and understanding what we are missing, unselfish love makes living, it makes it worth living. And I guess let me explain what I mean by that. When you have And when I think of unselfish love, I think of agape love, unconditional love, regardless of how this person may treat you, for a racist, for someone who hits you, for someone who speaks ill of you. You are supposed to turn the other cheek. You are supposed to love this person in spite of what their actions are. And I know that is easier said than done in times. And that is why we have to work on being more unselfish and raising our consciousness and raising our vibration to a frequency to where we can understand that that person is acting out and that person needs love, needs unconditional love, needs attention, needs, I'm not going to say needs to be punched in the face, because that's not where I'm going with this. Sometimes you have these people where you just want to, it might be a better thing to give them a beat down at points at sometimes. And you meet people that rub you the wrong way, that no matter what you do, they just push your buttons, and they try that. And that is where you have to learn how to really be an unselfish and loving person. And you have to take the higher road. And that is easier said than done. Believe me, I know, because we are here in this realm and not everybody is at the same level or same vibration that you are in. And it is up to us, the people who are at a higher vibration state, to help those that are in a lower frequency. And it is very hard to do. And it is one of the most unselfish things that you could do, is to lay down your life for another person, to save someone's life, to give up your own. I think that in loving a person unconditionally and unselfishly, you in turn love yourself, because when you understand that you love thy neighbors, you love yourself, because we are all one and we are separated from the higher consciousness, and we are all cut off and individualized here in this world. We are separated by race, religion, color of our skin, the way we act, our gender, sex, or sexual orientation, every single thing. And when you read this book, you understand that during the fall, the very first fall, it was, I'm not going to say an accident, but they had no way of knowing what was going to happen. And then preceding the second wave of beings like Yeshua or Thoth that came, Jesus that came to try to rescue their kin, the humanimals, the people who are at a lower state. We were all once angelic beings. We were all both compass male and female bodies, or individual energies, as I should say. And when they came here initially, the very beginning, the first and second wavers who came, they divided off. And once you read this book, you will understand that at a certain point, that's when we started to replicate, where we had a male and a female. Because before, angels were neither male or female, they were both. They encompassed both soulmates within themselves. And that's how we were at one time, in our original angelic state, in our energy state. And because we have taken on this form, and because we are in these bodies, and we are consciously having an experience now, we have forgotten who we are and what we need to do to raise the vibration of this planet. If we all just stopped and loved each other regardless, and gave up these petty arguments and fights and disagreements over land, over money, over neighborhoods, over race, over religion, and just understand that when you hurt someone else, you are hurting yourself as well. And you may not think that you are, but you really are. And I think that with reading this book and understanding that what we need is unselfish love, and we need to love one another as we love ourselves, because I know that it was a point in time in my life that I would say, I have to take care of myself. I have to love myself first before I can take care of anybody else. That's not necessarily the truth now that I see that. It is not. Because if you love someone as much as you love yourself, then yes, you are going to, that love is going to come back to you. And it may not be reciprocated by that very individual, but it will come back to you. Because when you love someone that doesn't love you, believe me, you take the higher road, at the end of the day, it may not make you feel good right then and there because you're in the emotional state. But once you stop, you pull yourself back and you meditate and you think on those things, then you realize that we as individuals, we are in a world of trouble on this planet. We really are. We have been conditioned, indoctrinated, and programmed into thinking that there is going to be a heaven when we die, and we're going to go to hell if we don't follow these commandments. And I'm here to tell you, when you read these scriptures and when you read these texts and when you understand how it was manipulated, it's a lie. It's a fallacy. We are going and we're looking for someone to save us and come back from heaven and to do these things when we need to be saving ourselves. We have what we need inside of us. We just have forgotten who we are and how to activate it. That is why you have to study. That is why you have to pick up more than one book. You need to read all of them. You need to understand when you come to the Creator, because I will not use that word God anymore, because to me, that is putting that essence or that energy in a box. And I don't want to give that entity, that everything, the oneness, a title like that, a name. That's a name. I would prefer to call it the One. When we come to the One and we ask for it, you have to be ready to understand and to accept what it is going to give you. We have been humanizing and conditioning God and putting God in a box, going to church, because I have been guilty of praying for a better job, for a better car, for a better house, a soulmate who helped me. I've been in that trap before where I think that if I do all these things, that I'm going to get all these blessings and everything's going to be okay and I'm going to have this life. I'm here to tell you, I had all that. I've been at the very low and I've been at the very high, and I'm okay right now where I am. But I'm here to tell you that when you go and you ask for those things, we're asking for the wrong reasons and for the wrong things. We need to be asking for knowledge. We need to be asking for strength. We need to be asking for understanding. We need to be asking for a higher consciousness, to raise our consciousness, to learn how to love unconditionally people around us and ourselves, and to get back in touch with the oneness from since the fall, because we are all fractal pieces of the infinite Creator. And I dare say we are all looking for Jesus. If we're here in the West and you're hearing me in the United States, we're looking for Jesus to come back and he's going to save us. And I'm here to tell you that when you read the text, and I'm not just talking about the Hebrew text or the Torah, I'm talking about at least 20 to 27, 30 different verses or Bibles. When you start reading these texts, especially the lost children, the lost teachings of Atlantis, you will understand that the entity Jesus, Thoth, Yeshua, was telling us how to get to that inner path and to that inner peace. And stop looking and worshiping the being and look at what he was trying to teach us. That is the whole point. Everybody's going to these churches nowadays, singing praises, throwing their hands up in the air, falling out, speaking in tongues, paying tithes, getting foot washings, baptisms, and missing the whole damn point. The whole point of what the entity was trying to tell you, that person is a part of us. We are that being. We are creators ourselves in our own universe. This is a holographic universe. We create. Whatever you put out there is what you are going to get back. Law of attraction, law of cause and effect. You've got to understand those things. When you start speaking words out into the ether, you need to speak positive words. Stop putting that negative crap in your head. You need to raise your frequency. Everything, we are being attacked by every single thing, whether it's TV, music, the frequency in our music, our electronic devices, the 5G towers, the chemical spraying above our heads, the glyphosates in our food, the fluoride in our water. We are being dumbed down because we are magnificent creatures. We are God's lowercase g, God's ourselves, because we are part of the infinite Creator. These bodies that we have, they're only temporary. We power these vessels, and when the energy is cut off, we leave the vessel and we're on to another one. If you go to church every Sunday, they don't talk about reincarnation. Every other religion around the world, every sect knows about reincarnation except Christianity, except Catholicism, except the Church of Christ, except the Catholic Church. We don't talk about that in the West because it's like if they don't talk about it in the Baptist churches, in the Protestant churches, in Jehovah's Witness, all of them. Every single sect is all broken off from this. The lost teachings of Atlantis. Yes, it was real. Yes, it sank because of, one, the cataclysms that happen every 26,000 years or every 12,800 years, excuse me, because of the cataclysms that come and because they were opening up dark portals to bring these other entities in. There was a plethora of things that was a snowball effect or a cataclysm that set it off in the last period, which ushered in the Ice Age, the Younger Dryas period. Do you not know that the 10 Commandments in our Bibles were from the 42 teachings of Mott? You need to look that up. Look up the teachings of Mott. We were only given 10 in the commandments with Moses on the tablets, but there were more teachings than that. Did you not know that? I bet you didn't. You know why you didn't know that? Because you're going into a building listening to what these entities are telling you, these people are telling you, and you need to study thyself approved. Nothing wrong with going into the establishment, to the religious organizations. If that's where your mind is, I'm not going to deter you from doing that. I'm just simply saying you can't just base the studying on what you all cover in church, because you need to do your own studying and you need to take the initiative to do one up and to step up and to start learning other cultures and learning other things to expand your consciousness, expand your awareness. Because whoever you surround yourself with, that is where you're going to be. If you want to level up, then you need to step it up. You really do. I didn't come out here today to start preaching and throwing all kinds of things out. I came on here to talk about unconditional love in chapter 8 of the Lost Teachings of Atlantis. I came to talk to you guys because, and ladies, when I say guys, I mean ladies and gentlemen. I came to you guys because I see so much online and so much confusion nowadays, and it's just unbelievable how there's so many distractions. And I've had several people reach out to me and ask me, well, do you believe in Jesus? Yeah, I believe in Yeshua. His name was Yeshua, Thoth, Hermes, Ninkazita. This being was known by several different names. This being reincarnated multiple times, not just known by that one name. Okay? And the story of the birth of Christ and the Virgin Mary has been told countless times. Yes, I am referring to the teachings of ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet. And people go, oh, that's witchcraft and that's sorcery. No. How can you be ignorant enough to talk about something and you don't know what you're talking about? Have you actually picked up a book? Have you actually went into a museum? Have you actually sit down and watched hours of documentaries to find out what actually these cultures were talking about? Have you visited the pyramids? Do you know that there are pyramids here in the United States? There's a lot of things. When I was in this box, I stayed in this box and I thought that that was all there is. And I'm here to tell you, take the damn blinders off and start researching and looking at things from a different point of view, looking at it from a higher point of view. I love you guys and thank you for spending this afternoon with me. Thank you for spending this time with me. I thank each and every one of you that you are a blessing in my life, friendship on social media, or in person with my family and friends and my coworkers. I appreciate the time that I have had with you all, and I know that each one of us have a path and a journey, and I know each one of us at some point are going to leave our vessels and move on to bigger and better things, hopefully. I will be coming to you again with another video that I'm going to be talking about Kriya Yoga,